Hello, everyone. Today is Monday, the 5th of December, and this is the Storytelling for and by Adults series. Haritha, please introduce yourself fully, tell us about your work, and please tell us a story.
Thank you, Eric, for this wonderful platform. Hello, everyone. I'm Haritha K from Chennai. I'm a storyteller for children and adults, and I also work as LSRW educator in 3L. I do freelancing. I mostly work with children. And welcome everyone from all parts of the world. Lovely to see you all. I've chosen to tell a story titled The Coldest Night of the Year, written by Margaret Davol. And here we go. Very long ago, in the Carroll County of England, there lived the Leatherby family. They owned a little cottage among the tall oak trees, and Papa Alonzo Leatherby and Mama Luli lived along with their 9 children. They loved each other so much. They cared for each other so much. They worked when they worked and they played when they played. Papa Alonzo was known as the greatest storyteller of the Carroll County, and Mama Louie, I must definitely tell about her. She was expert in making pickles, preserving them and selling them. And why was Papa Alonzo called the best storyteller of Carroll County? I will tell you. He had story for every listener. They lived in the times when nobody dreamt about a radio or a television or even a bicycle. Papa Alonso family met others in family occasions or in community gatherings. And it will happen like this. Someone from the gathering will ask Papa Alonso, Alonso, tell us about the story of how the sun got stuck between 2 huge trees. And Papa Alonso had his own way of starting the story. He would take a moment, think about everything related to that story, take a pause, and he will begin this way. Well, now as I would recollect, he will slowly take all the listeners of how the sun got stuck between 2 trees. And a little girl will pull his shirt and will ask, Alonso uncle, tell us about how the little goat turned into blue. That one will be hilarious for us to hear, she would say. And the girl would wait for Papa Alonso to start the story. Again, he will start in the own signature way. He will take a moment, recollect all the pictures related to that story, absorb them, and he will say, well, now, as I would recollect, and he will take all the listeners to the time when the goat turned into blue. That's how he impressed all the listeners. And through the word of the mouth, everyone started to call him the best storyteller in the Carroll County. It so happened in one winter morning, it started to snow. It snowed and snowed and snowed. Let me tell you the size of the snow. It was gigantic. If one of it fell on you, you will become flat, just like a pancake, and someone will come and eat you. So be careful. All the family members in Carroll County, they shut their doors and stayed safe inside. In the morning, the stone just reached the footsteps of the front door. And by the afternoon, the snow just touched the window sill. And by the evening, it covered all the roofs in Carroll County. And by the night, the snow had just touched the tip of the chimney. Luckily, it stopped snowing, or else the snow would have entered the chimney and put off all the fireplace. And let me tell you what was happening inside the Leatherby's cottage. Mama Luli, she brought in a big pot. She kept it on the stove, turned on the stove and kept it in a low flame. And she added lots and lots and lots of water, cut some mushrooms, threw it inside, lots of onions, salt and pepper. She started to stir and stir and stir. By the time the aroma started to fill the living room, Papa Alonso slowly walked towards his rocking chair, and he sat on it and began to rock his chair. And the children knew that it was the time that they are going to listen to another enchanting story told by their own Papa Alonso. So they would gather around him. Some of the children will just hold his shoulders, touch his shoulders, feel his shoulders, and some of them would sit near his feet, while others, the elder ones, will just sit straight to him and wait for him to start the story. And as usual, he started his own signature way. He took a moment, tried to recollect which story he's going to say, and he opened his mouth to say the story. Yes, nobody could get anything inside the ears. There was utter silence. Why? Because it was the coldest night of the year when everything was frozen, even Papa Alonso's words. The words that made up the story, they also got frozen. All the words frozen, and it started to hang here and there, covering entire living room of the Alonso family. Papa Alonso didn't stop. He knew that his words were not heard by his family members. But once he started the story, he continued to tell his story. I will tell you why. As he continued to tell the stories, all the words turned into ice and it hung here and there, here and there. And Mama Luli came to the rescue. I will tell you what she did. She was sharp like an icicle and very fast like an avalanche. She stopped stirring the hot soup pot. She came near Papa Alonso and she collected all the frozen words. She collected all the frozen words and then she took the frozen words near the soup pot and slowly, without damaging the frozen words, she put one by one inside the soup pot. Plop, plop, plop. And all the words entered the hot soup pot. My dear listeners, just imagine all the words which made up the beautiful story of Papa Alonso became frozen words, and Luli had the clever idea to put them in the soup pot. And along with the aroma, after some time, when the soup started to boil, blub, 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 the words also came out of the soup. Just in the same way as Papa Alonso would say, the words came to life. And it started to say from the pot. Well, now, as I would recollect, there was a big pumpkin, and the children went crazy about the pumpkins. And the story about the pumpkin, which Papa Alonso was saying, was spread wide, filled the entire room, and the children were awestruck for the first time to listen to Papa Alonso's own story to be heard from a hot soup pot. They covered themselves with nice warm blankets, sat near the fireplace, and listened to all the stories that Papa Alonso told that night. But not from Papa Alonso's mouth, my dear listeners, but from the hot soup pot. Nobody knew when the sun came up the next day. And Mama Luli was thinking what she should do because the pot was overflowing with all the frozen words. Remember, she was the best pickle maker in the country. So she quickly had another idea. She took all those frozen words which are hanging here and there in the nook and corner. She took them very, very carefully without damaging those words. And then she went inside the pantry. She took empty glass jars, put all the frozen words inside the glass jar. She tightly closed the lid, and with a chit of white paper, she named the story, which made up the words, frozen words that was inside the glass jar. She knew that when Papa Alonso was not nearby, the children will come and pester her asking for one of his stories. And that time she can go to the pantry, take one of those glass jars, open them, take all the frozen words which made up the story, take it to the stove and thaw them. And again, one of Papa Alonso's story would come to life. Thanks to Mama Luli's clever idea. Why did she do that? Because she knew that every word that made up the story was very, very important. She was in love with all the stories that Papa Alonso, her own husband, told. And she also had the knowledge that they were very essential to pass it on to her children and to the grandchildren. So she did this clever idea of preserving them in the glass jar. And the legacy of storytelling continued through the Leatherby family in the Carroll County. So that was the story of the coldest night in the year in Carroll County. Thank you for listening to me.
Okay, thank you very much. So that's a story you made up, isn't it?
It was written by the author Margaret Davol.
Oh. And what about the story really calls out to you? What do you love about the story?
The one thing, like the idea of storing all the frozen words in a container and the idea of taking it out and thawing it when the children are ready to listen to the story. I thought that was just out of the world. And how much she respected, Mother Luli respected the stories and the love of stories that she had the idea to preserve it and pass it to the next generation.
It's silly, right? Because obviously you can't, words are not, spoken words are not objects, right? They're.
Yeah, yes, but that's the magic of stories, isn't it? Anything is possible in stories.
Mm-hmm.
You could say it's silly, or you could say it's profound.
I remember
It's a lovely metaphor.
In one animal story, there's an animal who wants to catch sunlight in a jar. And, the sunlight is coming into the jar, so the animal is sure that if he closes the jar, sunlight will be in there. But then when he opens it later, there's no sunlight there.
Haritha, I loved your story. I really love this, the way there's it's like a tall tale.
Yes, exactly.
Very
it is
much,
a tall tale. Yes.
But
yes.
but Haritha, you had this idea of the pickle stories. I mean, here we have obsolete records, CDs, all of that, and now we have pickle jars. It's so much nicer than electronic preservation. Thank you for the story.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Joe.
Haritha, I appreciated some of your language. I like that sharp as an icicle and fast as an avalanche. And your story reminded me, and I'm not sure if this is something that folks have or had in India or in England or anywhere else, but I remember growing up, we had something called alphabet soup. Okay. Erica, you might remember that, yeah. And it was a soup that it would come in a jar. The typical company was Campbell's.
Oh,
and
can,
it would have
metal can.
Yeah, you still get it? Yeah.
No, but it came in a can, didn't it?
Yeah, it came in a can. I'm sorry, and the letters were little bits of pasta in the shape of letters, and so yeah. And that kind of commoditization of language. It also reminds me of like poetry on the refrigerator, where there are magnetic little words that you can put on your refrigerator and arrange them as poetry. But it's a lovely metaphor.
Thank you, Barry.
Okay. Very good. Okay, thank you for telling us that story.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Very good. Okay. Gonna